So, I was enjoying some gingerbread and a glass of mulled wine on Christmas Eve when I got an interesting message from an Instagram buddy who brought to my attention Games Workshop's intention to sell a limited release of the miniatures from the 4th edition starter set Battle for Macragge. But this is something I won't be sinking £90 on, and in this video, allow me to explain why. In 2004, the year GW released the 4th edition of Warhammer 40k. By this time, I was 2 years out of the hobby, instead focusing on getting my university degree and wooing a certain lady I would later marry. So 4th edition doesn't hold any nostalgia for me. Comparatively, I regard the 3rd edition as a golden age, and I had no inclination to learn the new rules, even if they weren't a million miles away. Interestingly, this was the only edition I didn't play at least one game of. But several years later, I obtained some parts from this set for an eBay job lot. Although I didn't play it, I thought the missions and simplified version of the rules were interesting, and could have provided an entertaining standalone game if I had a willing opponent. The NID models were absorbed into my now lost NID army, and I have no idea what became of the Space Marines or the scenery. I probably sold them on. So, my initial reaction to the news of the release of these miniatures was, well, I have to get them, if for no other reason than it would allow me to produce some content for the channel. But, on careful reflection, and after discussion with my friend, I decided I would not be purchasing Games Workshop's latest nostalgic offering, and I don't know, maybe you have already taken the plunge and offered 90 squid on the altar of fear of missing out. But for me, and perhaps you, I think there's an alternative. Not necessarily an easy alternative, but an alternative nevertheless. And if you know anything about me, I prefer the conversion route, the restoration route, the eBay save route, rather than buying brand new. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm from the north. So, I'm thinking, if I wanted to do this thing, could I do it for less than £90? Let's have a look at the contents of this bundle. First, there's the Space Marines, a 10-strong tactical squad, 7 of bolters, 1 as a flamer, 1 a missile launcher, and 1 sergeant with bolt pistol and chainsword. All models are push-fit. The bolter Marines were later released in a pack of 3. The sergeant, called Octavian, seems rare though. If memory serves, he was unique to this set, while the other minis, or ones very much like them, were re-released in the starter set for 5th edition, Assault on Black Reach. But other than that, this is a fairly standard tactical squad. And by standard, I mean that, although the sculpts are different, the loadout is the same as the 2nd, 3rd and 5th edition starter sets. But moreover, if you've been collecting as long as me, you may already have the miniatures to field a tactical squad with this loadout, either painted or grey in your bits box, or maybe somewhere in between. I for one have both. I could use an existing squad or build a new one from spares I have. So regarding the Space Marines, I don't need to buy this set. What about Lieutenant Varus? He was only released in this set, so I guess the only other place to get him is eBay, unless you fancy converting an Imperial Guardsman. If you wanted to play the missions from the Battle for Macragge set, then he's a necessary component. But I am lucky to have 2 of these, one of which I painted a few days ago. I'm not sure why you would want him otherwise. I know people have added him to an Imperial Navy kill team or an Inquisitorial retinue, but other models could fulfill that niche as well, unless your heart beats only for him.
Oh, Varus, you Imperial Navy pilot, you bearer of gene seed, there is no one else besides you, no one like you. You fight side by side with Space Marines against the Tyranids. You truly are a hero of the Imperium, and my heart beats only for you.
Then there's the Tyranids, 6 Gene Stealers, 10 Termagants, and 8 Spore Mines. Again, from existing purchases, I could field these already. The scale might not be spot on, but I have them. Gene Stealers from Space Hulk, and Termagants from Leviathan. I suppose if I wanted something more era appropriate, I could scour eBay, but again, long-time collectors may very well already own these. As for the spore mines, they are a bit more niche, but I reckon some clever use of modelling putty could make these bad boys. Of course, the original set came with some other Tyranid pieces, these tentacled sphincters and this big ol' orifice to oblivion. Yeah, I'd have to get creative with these. As an aside, I actually used this terrain piece as part of my Tyranid drop pod conversion. And so we arrive at the Aquila Lander, and the other bespoke terrain pieces. I concede, acquiring these, especially the Lander, is possibly the best argument for making this purchase. The Lander is a really nice terrain piece, and again, pretty crucial if you want to recreate the missions from the time. If I was to make this idea a reality, and that's a big if, I would ask a friend with a 3D printer to print off an Aquila Lander and use that to make the terrain pieces, but that's a massive project in itself, and probably quite a silly idea. In the time it would take you to do that, you could probably do some overtime work and then pay GW the £90 they were asking for. That would be more time effective. But then, if I had £90 spare, would I buy this? For the same money I could get a combat patrol, for example, or a load more on the second-hand market, which is always my preference. Of course, there's some other terrain pieces as well which are not otherwise available. What might have swung me would be if they had included some rules to go with them, some scenarios to play, like the ones released with the original set, and then they could have knocked a tenner off the price as well to seal the deal. If that were the case, I would consider purchasing this product, maybe as a fun standalone game, but that isn't happening. So could I acquire these miniatures for less than £90? I think so. In fact, I have many of them already, or close approximations anyway. I'm actually not too crazy about the Aquila Lander terrain, so for me, that makes it a hard pass. I would love to prove to the internet that I could do this for real, but my time is a premium, and the cause doesn't justify the time and effort. But if anything has come of this episode, it is that I managed to paint a forgotten miniature in my collection, Lieutenant Varus. My heart beats for no one else. Well, apart from Mrs. Miniscape, of course.
That's some tasty Land Raider.
And my Ultramarines. And who knows, if I run out of ideas, I may make a video about how I painted him. After all, I have another one of these minis to paint, and can one man have too many of these lovely chaps? I think we all know the answer to that. Since I have the miniature I want from this set, and since this doesn't really hold any nostalgia for me, it's a pass. I don't need this made-to-order Battle for Macragge. Assault on Black Reach, though, that does hold value for me. It's how I got back into the hobby. But that's a story for another video. And with that, I better go paint some more minis. Take care, and thanks for watching.